Welcome back to the Circular Chess Championship quarterfinals. The matchup today is first seed Toggled versus 8th seed IvanTheCOol. Toggled won the first qualifier, which makes him the only player to do so on his first attempt, and the only player who has yet to lose a match. And Ivan may be the 8th seed, but he has taken down some tough opponents in the qualifiers. In fact, he took down the first seed in the very same qualifier that Toggled ended up winning, so definitely don't count him out. I know it's going to be an exciting one, so anyways, let's get right into the match. Alright, and it's Toggled starting off with the white pieces. He goes for the king's pawn opening, and Ivan does the same. We see a queen's pawn push, and now Ivan getting his queen out early. It's something I believe we saw Matty Zero do in his qualifier match, but I don't think we've seen it since then. The idea being that this pawn is not defended, and it comes with check, so something has to be done about it. Nothing's done about it. Toggled instead bringing his queen in. We've seen this before. It defends both knights and helps against a future promotion attempt. And of course, Ivan, seeing the point of this move, goes for the check. Toggled now blocking with his dark square bishop. This pawn also hangs. It doesn't get taken though. Instead, just moving this pawn to defend his knight. This knight now coming in to attack the queen. This pawn though still hangs. I'm not sure if Ivan's going to see it. He does. And now the queen's not really in any danger. The rook can attack, but there's just way too many squares for the queen to go to. Even this bishop attack just blunders a bishop. Toggle's first pushing his rook's pawn. I don't know if that's the best thing to do when your opponent has a queen this close to your king. Another free pawn falls. The rook now sliding over, defended by the bishop now, and also defending the knight. Now Ivan moves a knight. The point of this may be to stop this promotion, or it could also possibly be to get this bishop in. Toggled's bishop comes in first, attacking the knight. This bishop slides in to defend it, and the trade goes through. Now this pawn's starting to push. Can't be taken by this knight anymore. Now we see Ivan pushing this pawn. Probably going to bring in this bishop, maybe even to this square instead. The pawn pushes, and the bishop comes into the center. This will, at the moment, be a bishop for pawn trade, but there are things that Ivan could possibly do with his queen to make that a better exchange. This knight moves out of the way. This attacks the bishop and opens up a discovered attack from the queen onto this bishop. Ivan simply slides his bishop back. This one now hangs and it falls. Oh, but this knight also hanging. So this is a perfectly fine exchange for Ivan. He's up 3 pawns at this point. Now this knight, I'm not sure if Toggle will see it. He doesn't. Maybe he did see it, but he wants to go for promotion instead. But this knight's no longer defended after this bishop moved off of this diagonal. Now Ivan just pushing his own pawn. This does get his rook into the game, but it will just, actually it won't quite allow promotion because after promotes, the bishop can take. And I guess since this knight's hanging anyways, this exchange will be fine. So promotion happens, bishop takes and queen takes. This also comes with check. So the bishop and the knight will both fall if Toggled goes for it. Ivan just blocking with the pawn. The knight does fall. This is also quite dangerous. This square not defended. If Toggled can just get this dark square bishop on, let's see, this square without Ivan noticing, this queen can come in for checkmate. Ivan perhaps saw it. Now moving his knight. This queen can no longer come into the back rank. Toggled starts to push this pawn. It is defended, but it won't be for long. Of course, this queen on the center might be all he needs, but this queen could also get in the way. Ivan also pushing. He has a defender, so it looks like we're going to see a pawn race. Now, Toggled knowing that this pawn would be attacked, moves his knight first. This does also free up this rook, possibly even to come on to the 7th rank to attack the queen. The pawn pushes again, and yep, this rook does come up, but the bot apparently hating this move. It would, in fact, be... So after promotion, the queen does fall, but so does Toggled's queen, going this way. But instead of promoting, Ivan brings his queen down. It offers a queen trade, but I'm not sure if that's... I guess it works. Since White's queen is otherwise hanging, you can't take this pawn first. So this exchange does happen, leaving Ivan now up 4 points of material and attacking a knight. Of course, he also has absolute domination over the central ring because even if this rook comes down, Ivan can bring his own down and he has 2 rooks. Toggle does push the pawn though. Now, I'm not sure what this move... Okay, the bishop is actually defended, so I'm not sure if this rook move was just to stall because it doesn't accomplish too much. Anyway, this bishop comes in to defend this promotion square. Now this rook slides down. The bot apparently not liking that move. I don't think Ivan had very many other options though. He could possibly have attacked this knight, but then promotion still happens. I'm not sure. The knight does get out of the way though. It wasn't hanging, but it potentially could have been after this exchange happens. Ivan now allowing this promotion sequence to happen. It's still, so promotes, rook captures, bishop captures, rook captures. It's a rook for a pawn and bishop. Of course, this pawn very valuable because it's already so close to promoting. so it's worth more than 1 point likely. So he doesn't promote, instead moves his knight again to attack the rook. Rook simply slides out of the way, now attacking the dark square bishop. This pawn pushes, defending and also getting this rook into the game if you would like. Ivan just pushing again. This knight now sliding maybe closer this square, attacks the rook again, but it would take a few, like quite a few moves to start defending the promotion square. I guess only it would take 2, but that would blunder a knight. So I'm not sure. Pawn pushes once again, now 1 square away from promotion. Now the knight does come to attack the rook. This allows promotion though, so it would end up being just a knight for pawn trade at the end of the day. But he doesn't promote, instead blocking white's promotion. Of course, the square no longer defended because the knight came in and cut that off. The knight now coming down. Black now has the option to just take the knight, and then even after promotion, this rook could just capture. That's not what happens. Instead, this pawn falls, which achieves a similar purpose. I guess perhaps this pawn is stronger than this knight in this situation. Maybe that's what Ivan calculated, because even after this rook falls, the knight falls, and promotion might happen. Actually, black has to choose between these two. So the rook falls, and now promotion happens. This knight, of course, under attack, but it can get out of the way. It does. Now Ivan's starting to push another pawn. Both players pushing their rook's pawns. We're going to see a promotion race. Toggle's going to be the first to promote, but I don't think he's going to. Yep, this bishop coming in first. This will allow promotion, though. Nothing that Toggle can do about it. There'll just be 3 rooks on the central ring. And now Toggle promotes, so the exchange will likely happen, and it does. This rook capturing instead, I'd completely missed the fact that this square was defended by the rook, but he can just keep capturing, and he's up 7 points of material after this, and Toggle, like neither players, but especially Toggle doesn't have any pawns going, and he needs these to be further up the board at this point. He does start pushing. Now Ivan simply sliding his second rook into the center. There's very little for Toggle to do to get control of the center without some kind of pawn push. He gets his king into the game now. This file is open, so that could be dangerous. Now Ivan just simply pushing. He's gonna make it there first, and there's nothing that Toggle can do to take control of the center. Ivan now simply going for another rook trade. Toggle doesn't take it, instead blocking this pawn. Ivan insists on the rook trade, also defending the pawn. The rook trade now happens. Toggle tries to get 1 square closer to promotion, but a block can happen. This knight can defend the square, and it comes in and does that, but the pawn's just hanging, and this comes with check. The king slides out of the way, and now Ivan just has a free route to promotion. He promotes. Toggle tries to push 1 more pawn, but now this knight comes under attack. These knights now defend each other, so that's good at least for Toggled. But now this rook comes into check. White moves to safety. Another check, and now Ivan sacrifices a rook for a knight. The knight captures, and now this pawn falls. Toggled with just 2 knights to his name. Moves the knight to safety, and now after another pawn push, he tries to attack this rook, simply slides out of the way. Another knight move, another pawn push. The knight keeps moving, trying to get to this promotion square. It will make it in time, but all this rook has to do is move here, and then like maybe he can block promotion, but simply sliding down afterwards, there's not much to be done. And in this position, Toggled resigns the game. Actually, as a note, I didn't notice this was also check, so this knight is just falling on the next move. So Ivan, the 8th seed, with a stunning first match against Toggled, is now up 1-0 in the match. He just needs 1.5 more points, and he pulls off the upset against the 1 seed. Now let's move on to game 2 and see if Ivan can pull that off. Now in game 2, Ivan has the white pieces. He goes for the king's pawn opening. Toggle does the same, and once again, we see Ivan bringing his queen out early. This does attack this pawn, but Toggle fell for that last game. I don't think he's going to fall for it again. Now this knight comes in early to defend the pawn. There are other ways he could have done it, but this could potentially set him up for a queenside castle. We've seen that before. Now this bishop coming in early. This puts an attack on the knight, actually. So now Toggled might have to defend this pawn, otherwise captures, and then this pawn still hangs. He instead just moving his rook's pawn. The knight does fall. After captures, he doesn't take the pawn. He could have... Oh, okay, never mind. I forgot about his own pawn being here. It is blocked on this side and this side, so the pawn could not fall. Instead, bringing his queen into the center, and the bot absolutely hates this move. Toggle now pushing his queen's pawn. Ivan trying to do the same. The pawn pushes keep coming through, and now, with Toggle 2 squares away, we see this knight move. The pawn can still push, but then we'll likely see the knight blocking. That is what happens, but the knight doesn't block. Of course, it's still defending this square, and that would end up being a knight for pawn trade. Promotion comes through, and that exchange does happen, now bringing the black queen into the center. Still, it's attacking this knight. It is not defended by the bishop quite yet. We don't see the pawn push, and so this knight falls. Now, Ivan is pushing his rook's pawn. He could have gone for... Never mind, both rooks are defended, so he couldn't have gone for any kind of exchange. Instead, just pushing his rook's pawn, and wow. This move, I missed it as well, was just sitting here on the board for so long. As soon as this knight moved, this bishop could have captured it. It was there for, let's see, it's hanging for 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves, now 4 moves, 5, 6, 7. And on the 8th move, Toggled finally finds the hanging queen. But hey, he gets it in the end, so I guess it all works out for Toggled. The bishop takes back. Now Toggled's rook's pawn continuing this push. Ivan doing the same. We see another pawn race, but Ivan now pushing this pawn. This puts this queen under attack, perhaps hoping that Ivan doesn't see it. But if he does, this move is just devastating. If it weren't for this square, it would be checkmate. And Toggled does find it. Now the king forced to go up to this square. Now this knight coming in, this could be dangerous. This rook comes in to attack the knight. Another rook comes in though. It's actually not blocked by this pawn because it can go all the way around and still, I mean, not this square, but it could find another square, come into the game. So Ivan now defending this pawn, but this pawn is not defended and it falls to a knight. Ivan now trying to push again, but this looks so dangerous. Of course, black can't move to this square because of the pawn, but you don't want a knight and queen both so close to your king. Toggle just pushing a pawn though, and he promotes before Ivan has a chance to move his rook out of the way and promote for himself. Now perhaps he could take this rook. Now after this rook takes promotion, then he has a double attack on the rook and the knight. Let's see if that happens. It does. It's exactly what we see. The rook does capture. Now white's rook captures back. Now we see Toggle finding another free pawn, and this rook, I believe, is just trapped. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing that can be done about it. Ivan just going for this hanging pawn. The rook falls and the pawn falls. And now Ivan's knight also falls. He at least gets another pawn out of it. But this knight falls too, and Ivan's just losing all of his pieces. He tries to push this pawn to attack this knight, but another pawn falls. This position just got absolutely destroyed in just a few moves. Let's go back a little bit. After this promotion trade, Toggle's up 10 materials, so he's obviously up quite a bit, but in just a few moves, he's now up 20 whole points of material. The knight falls at least, making that just 18, but the pawn falls in exchange, and this is check, and in this position, now Ivan resigning the game. Of course, very little to be done with just a rook and 2 pawns to your name, down 18 points of material, so you can't blame him. And now Toggle ties the match back up, showing why he's the 1 seed, and now let's see if he can keep the momentum going to avoid the upset against Ivan. Let's move on to game 3. Okay, so now Toggled back with the white pieces in game 3. Goes for the king's pawn opening, and Ivan does the same. And we see Toggled pushing the queen's pawn again. We might see the same queen move. We do. Toggled, again, not likely to fall for it. He pushes this pawn, of course, blocking the queen's access to the pawn that is still hanging. Both of these outside pawns are defended by the rook and queen, respectively. Now this bishop sliding in, still defending this knight, and once his pawn pushes, it'll be attacking this knight as well. Toggle just pushes his queen's pawn. Ivan does the same. If this race were to continue, white would still be the first to promote, but he has to potentially deal with this knight first. It's defended, but that's not necessarily an exchange you want when this knight might be all that stops this promotion from happening. He does just push a pawn, but instead of capturing this knight and allowing the exchange, he goes all the way around since that pawn is no longer blocking and takes the hanging pawn anyways. Toggle blocks with his knight. The bot absolutely hates this move. I'm not sure exactly why. You can't take it, obviously. This is easily blocked by either the knight or the pawn. Perhaps this bishop could come into check. And is that, it's not quite mate, not even all that close. The square is defended several times, so I'm not sure. So this knight moves. This will allow this bishop to come in to this square, which is only defended by the king. The pawn moves, practically allowing that to happen. It also attacks the queen, so Ivan can't take advantage of that. The queen just sliding back to the center, now attacking this knight. It's no longer defended by this bishop. The pawn now just pushing, so this knight might fall. It does. Now this knight moves out of the way, attacking the queen. He sees it, simply blocking the pawn. Now this bishop comes in to attack this knight, forces it to move out of the way. It's now attacking this pawn, but the bishop can come in and defend. Now Ivan forced to just push. This queen comes in, it attacks this knight, and there is one square that the knight can run off to. Let's see if it happens. It doesn't. Instead, he defends it with this bishop. Also a pretty good move. But now this queen can check the king. And although it's easy to run away from, Ivan now, unless he blocks with his knight, he'll lose castling rights. And even if he blocks, he has to find a way to defend this knight pretty quickly. He blocks with the bishop, leaving this knight now undefended, although it's also not attacked. Now it is. It's attacked by this knight and defended all the way from this queen. The knight just simply takes. Queen takes back. Now this knight comes in to attack the queen, but the queen simply slides down. Now this bishop defending this knight, no longer blocking this check if the queen comes back in at some point. Now Toggle's dark square bishop comes in, putting another attacker on this knight, but the queen just moves out of the way. This move allowing promotion. Ivan appears to be trying to get a sneaky attack on this bishop, but I don't know if that's going to end up mattering because this exchange, it just favors white, and white has to take with the bishop first anyways, so there's no chance that Ivan pulls the trick off. He takes with the bishop. I'm not even sure if Toggle saw the queen attack. He might have, but it doesn't even matter. And after this exchange, material now completely even. Ivan was up a whole night before this, and after the queen takes, Ivan, thinking that this square is undefended in a free rook, it's not. This queen defends, and Toggle does see it. So he's up a queen for a pawn, and in just a few moves, once again, this position went all the way back into Toggle's favor. He was down a little bit. Now Ivan's gonna have to do a lot to recover. He moves this knight, potentially going for a castle. He still has castling rights, but Toggle just promotes a pawn. Now he's up 14 points. Ivan trying to push a pawn of his own. Now this queen comes in, and there's only a little bit that Ivan can do to protect the pawn. He does make this move, but now this bishop comes in, takes this pawn, and that's just a forced exchange now, and there's not a whole lot that can be done. So the best move may be to move this rook and then take the bishop after this bishop captures, because otherwise, if this bishop takes, then queen takes, this rook and this pawn are both undefended, and of course the knight also under attack. So again, if bishop takes, queen takes, you would have to move your rook over to this square, and then your knight would fall. This is exactly what happens. Ivan not going for this move. Of course, this move also pins this bishop to the queen. There are some kind of checks you could get to at least move the bishop out of the way early, but this bishop capture certainly wasn't the best move for black. Now Toggled up 15 points of material, now attacking 2 pieces and a pawn. The rook doesn't even defend the pawn. Of course, probably not necessary, as the knight's going to fall anyways, and it does. Now the king moving up because he was in check. This rook coming in now, putting check on the king once more. Now the king forced back to the square, the only legal square that it can move to. And now it's all but checkmate. White just has to, I don't know if it might be, it's not quite forced mate. This pawn can move and save it. Actually, it's still not quite. This queen move attacks, but the rook can block. I'm not sure exactly. Obviously very bad for black though. This pawn does fall, threatening mate in 1. The rook moves, and now I think this move is just forced mate. He finds it. It's not checkmate yet, but after rook blocks, queen simply doesn't even have to capture, although this is blockable once more, I believe. So this was mate in 1, but this still is also mate in 1. Actually, wow. Good thing I am not in Toggled's position here, because captures here blunders a queen. So this was mate in 2. He found the right move. Now finding checkmate, putting Toggled up now 2-1. All he has to do is draw this 4th and final game of regulation to avoid going to Armageddon. Ivan will get the white pieces, but he's going to be in a must-win situation. If he wants to take this match to Armageddon, he has to win. So with that being said, let's go right into game 4. All right, the 4th and potentially final game. Ivan with white pieces, pushing his king's pawn once again. Toggled does the same. Ivan once again bringing his queen out. Toggled fell for this trick once, and then in the previous game, he didn't fall for it right away, but there's still some tricks Ivan had up his sleeve, and he ended up getting that pawn for free. Now Toggled with the same defense, of course pushing this rook's pawn, blocks it in this direction, and it's also blocked in this direction from Ivan's own pawn. He pushes it. Now Toggled either has to defend this pawn or push it. He doesn't defend it. Oh, actually, never mind. This is exactly what happened previously. This pawn is defended and blocks the queen from getting this pawn as well. Bishop slides up, attacking this knight. It is defended. Toggled now moving another rook's pawn. Ivan getting 1 square closer to promotion. Toggled doing the same. Ivan now 1 square away. And Toggled, what is this move? Looks like he's allowing promotion. This move simply, it doesn't attack the right square. It allows for promotion. Now, Toggled getting his rook in, attacking the queen, and it's also defended. It will force this queen to come off this square, but he doesn't see it. Ivan taking this knight, and Ivan thinking that this bishop trade will just happen, but he loses a queen. Toggled now up 3 points of material. He's up a queen and pawn for rook and knight. Ivan now simply taking Toggled's light square bishop, and it's going to fall to the queen. Now Ivan pushing this pawn, attacking the rook. Rook simply slides down and takes this free pawn. Toggled now up 4 points of material. Another pawn push. Now this queen coming in. This is very dangerous. I think if not for this knight, it would be mate in 1. The knight thankfully there for Ivan. So he pushes again. Toggled now moving this knight. Not sure what it does exactly. It will allow this bishop to come in which will put pressure on this square. It could also attack the knight maybe from this square, and that could be good for Toggled. Let's see, another pawn push. The bishop not coming in. Instead, Toggled moving his knight again. Now Ivan attacking the knight with his rook. Toggled bringing his own rook in, and this is starting to look pretty dangerous. He can't quite make this move with his rook, of course defended twice, but just more and more pieces coming after this open king. Not looking good. The knight falls, but that takes the rook off of this file, which might end up being important. This knight now falling. That will leave this file open very soon. This pawn now pushing, it frees up the rook a little bit, but the queen does come into check. Now the king forced to move over. Now also attacking this rook though. This rook comes in and the eval bar just swung right back to even. Toggled, not realizing that 2 rooks are hanging. Of course though, this knight could capture, but that is just mate in 1. So Ivan has to capture this rook. Even after that though, so this queen could, it can't come here because the knight would still be there, but it could slide over here maybe. That would also blunder a rook actually. So I'm not sure, but it's still looking pretty rough. But wow, okay, Ivan taking the wrong rook, and if Toggled sees that, it's just checkmate, and he does. So with a quick, I'm not sure, let's see. Okay, I was gonna count it out, but it was a bit longer than I thought it was. It was an 18 move checkmate. Still incredibly fast. And now Toggled holds on, rough game 1, but in the next 3 games, he shows why he's the 1 seed and takes down 8th seed Ivan to move on to the semifinals. And we have our first semifinals matchup decided. It'll be 1 seed Toggled versus 5th seed tqgd. And that will be live on my channel. The date's to be determined, but it'll be sometime next week. And of course, we still have 1 more quarterfinals match, and that'll be premiering on my YouTube channel in the next couple of days. So anyways, with that being said, congrats to Toggled, and I hope to see you all in the next video.